Easily mistaken. Thank you. You've comforted me.
Okay, so we're gonna first say 2 chapters of Tehillim. Morning, your Baruch, Mike, Yossi, but of course, Raphael, Shmuel, Pinchas, Moshe, Raphael, and Rabbi Karp, and of course, Achor and Chaviv. But Rabbi Label came all the way from Florida just for the SIYUM. Rabbi Karp, and having everyone here in person is a tremendous bracha. Toby's not feeling well. So we'll say 2 chapters of Tehillim, and then we'll make our SIYUM. Lam Natsayach, Mizmor LeDavid, Yan Chaldinai B'Yam Sarai Sagav Hashem Ele Yaakov, Yitach Ezer Kami Kodesh Mitzion Nisadecha, Yishker Kami Chaysecha V'Laska Dash Nesela Yitin Chachil B'Vecha Chalatzascha Yimalei Nan Namshu Secha V'Shem Elheinu Nidgal Yimalei Adonai Kami Shalei Secha Atu Yadati Ki Yashir Adonai Meshicha Yanei Mishmer Katshe V'Guris Yishan Yeminei Ele V'Recha Ve'ele V'Susim V'Nachnu V'Shem Adonai Elheinu Naskir Hei Makaru V'Nafalo V'Nachnu Kamenu V'Nisaydad Adonai Yeshua Melech Yaneinu V'Yaim Kareinu. We spot like this. And then we're going to go to chapter 150.
150? Yeah.
Hallelujah, hallelujah, Abakacha, hallelujah, Uzay, hallelujah, Resav, hallelujah, Karev Kudlai, hallelujah, Sekar Shafar, hallelujah, Nevel, Vichinar, hallelujah, Seif Macha, hallelujah, Minim Vogav, hallelujah, Silsile Shama, hallelujah, Silsile Srua, Kollel Shama, hallelujah, hallelujah. So if you're in your Gemaras, we are going to be on Daf. If you have an art scroll, Lamed Beis, Amid Aleph, 32a2. We have 5 statements of Reb Shvakia, and this is the only page in the entire Shas where Reb Shvakia is mentioned. I'll pass it down to someone. There's a famous line that if you speak to God, you're a very holy person. If God answers you back, you might have to get checked out in the hospital. So our Gemara now, we're going to have a statement from Shvakia. How do you know if you hear a voice, if it's a heavenly voice or it's not a heavenly voice? So it says the Gemara, the Amar Reb Shvakia, Amar Reb Yechanan. Says Reb Shvakia in the name of Reb Yechanan. Minayin shemishtamshin bevaskol. If somebody wants to set out to do something and they're not sure if they should do it or not, and then they hear a heavenly voice telling him to do it, and if one knows that it's a heavenly voice, there is a prohibition in the Torah called lo senachashu. Don't be superstitious. Don't try to follow signs that, if a black cat crosses your path, don't do this. If you walk under a ladder, you'll have bad luck. We don't really follow those signs. So if I hear a heavenly voice, and we know the Torah is not in heaven, and there's different stories brought down in Shas when they tried to rule Paskin based on heavenly voices, and they said you cannot follow a heavenly voice. So how do you know if it's a heavenly voice that one should follow, and if it's a proper heavenly voice, a baskal? Shnemar, as it states, Vaznecha tishmana davar mecharecha lemer. You will hear a sound from behind you saying so. When one hears a voice and it's behind you, and you're not sure if you should do it or not, and the pasuk continues, Kis aminu v'chis asmilu, should you go to the right? Should you go to the left? And the pasuk ends off, Chis aminu, you could believe. Hani mili, so when could you believe a vasko? This shama kol gavra b'masa, if it's an unusual type of voice. For example, if one is inside of the city, and inside of the city, there's a lot of ambient, a lot of noise all around, and it's hard to hear an individual voice. And suddenly you hear an individual voice, something unique, something that sticks out. So then you could say this is a proper baskal, this is a proper heavenly godly voice. They call itza bedavra, or if one is in the desert, in the midbar, and you hear a woman's voice. Now, it's not common, at least back then, for a woman to be alone in the desert where there's no protection. And so if one hears a voice you're not expecting to hear. So you're in the desert, you hear a woman's voice, you're in the city, and you hear an individual voice instead of hearing the large general noise of the city. So then this is a sign that this is something unique, and you're allowed to follow this baskol, this heavenly voice. Hu the Amar Hein Hein, Hu the Amar Lav Lav. And another sign to see if it's a proper heavenly voice or not is if they have to double everything they see, everything they say. They have to say yes, yes, or no, no. For example, we see when Hashem said he's going to destroy the generation of the flood, and he had to repeat it twice. V'lo yikares, I will not, he destroyed the world, I will not destroy it anymore. V'lo ye'odamayim, they will not bring water anymore. Now, nowadays, we don't really have, at least I haven't experienced, heavenly voices. But the Baal Shem Tov explains on this idea that the heavenly voice could change from the way it used to be. People which were so holy and spiritual could hear heavenly voices. But there's, nowadays, everything which happens, a person sees and hears, is hashgacha pratis. It's divine providence, it's for a reason. And if you see something, that for you is a heavenly voice. Now, if you see it, so you see somebody needs help, for example, if it comes to you once, you might be hesitant to do it. But if it comes a second time, then you should know that it's something to really consider, something serious.
It's interesting. You remember where I met Park Americas?
Yeah.
So he was a Vietnam vet. He was actually in Hanoi Hilton for a while.
Vietnam.
Yeah, in Vietnam, he was a prisoner of war. And one time he was in leave in China, in Hong Kong. And most of the guys, went to the bars and other places, and he was just kind of walking around. And he said that he heard a voice that said, "Don't go down this street." And he was kind of interested in what's going on, and it said, "Don't go down the street, or you'll get killed." And so he listened.
You heard it twice?
Huh?
You heard it twice?
It was a warning. I believe I got to ask him whether it was twice or what, but it was, the implication was very clear that there was danger there, and that shouldn't tempt any fate. So it's just that. I don't know whether it qualifies as a possible, but it was so nice to show you.
Wow. Wow, I'm saying, I mean, there are similar type of like individual stories. I've heard a similar thing. A woman who wasn't from, she's in a Chavara somewhere, and she didn't have children for many years, and she was sitting on her porch, and suddenly she literally heard a voice that says, "Go to mikvah." She'd never heard of this concept called mikvah before. And a second time she said, "Go to mikvah." And so she Googled what is a mikvah, and she found the shliach. So I've heard similar, similar type of stories. There was just wanted to say hello to everyone, to share in person, finally, Baruch Hashem. There was a chassid who, after the not Pfeffer was his name, after the Rebbe Rashab passed away, he had dreams. The Rebbe Rashab would come to him and say a mimer for him. And
Who's this person?
Rebbe, not Pfeffer, I think. No, sorry, Rebbe Chaim Valensky. He was, he had dreams that the Rebbe Rashab would come to him and say a mimer for him. And after the first dream that happened, he publicized, told everyone, I had a dream of the Rebbe Rashab, and he repeated the mimer that he heard in the dream. And Friedrich Rebbe heard about this. This is within like a month after the Rebbe Rashab's passing. And the Friedrich Rebbe said, not everything you hear you're supposed to repeat. But he said, because he repeated it, he publicized that the Rebbe Rashab won't keep coming back to him. So there is such a concept, that you do hear heavenly voices, but for, I guess, most people who are on our caliber, it's more the idea of hashgacha pratis. And definitely, if you see somebody that needs help and you see it again, whether it's a spiritual help or a physical help, that means it's something which is special and unique for us. Yossi, even though you didn't make it in person, your representative is here.
Oh, who is this?
Oh, I'm going to say hello, Yossi. Hello, Yossi.
Oh, how you doing, Rabbi?
Thank God, doing
Good
good.
to see you. Good to see you, Rabbi. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let's continue with the Gemara. Rebbe Shaki, Rebbe Yechanan says, Shaki in the name of Rebbe Yechanan. When you read the Torah, you have to do it with the trup, with the cantillations. Most of us know very well that when you hear something to a tune, you remember that very well. if you hear something without a tune, it's harder to remember. Now, back then, people didn't have their own chumash printed, their own Gemara printed. Everyone had to sort of scramble or to see if they could look from the other side, inside of the chumash. If it's chumashim were held just in the shuls, only the very wealthy had a chumash or a scroll at home. So everything was remembered by memory. And the way to remember is by tune, with a trap. So whoever says the Torah, Vishaina or Mishnayis, Mishnah. The word Mishnah means to review. And the way you review also is with a tune, is with a song. So everything had its own unique trap and song. Allah v'kaso emer, if one does not learn the Torah or the Mikra or Mishnah with a tune, it says about him in a pasuk, V'agam ani nesati lam chukim le'tovim u'mishpatim le'yichyu behem. I gave them mitzvahs, but they weren't good for them. I gave them judgments, but they weren't able to live with it. Because they would not sing, they would not learn, they would learn it, but they wouldn't try remembering it. They wouldn't put the proper effort to do the extra mile, go above and beyond. The trup is, we have a tradition, it comes all the way from Moshe Rabbeinu. It says time in Mikrais. So even the trup is included in what was given to Moshe Rabbeinu by Har Sinai. And there's many different secrets and depth in the Torah, which comes from the trup, the tunes of the Chumash, and even of Mishnah, and therefore it's important to always learn with a trup. Maskef la Baya says, Mishum de liyadal v'sumikala. Let me ask you a question. If somebody is singing and doesn't have a nice voice, remember Rabbi Ruddle once saying that he was chazan once in a very old shul, and when he got up to be chazan for Musaf, one of the windows actually fell out. This is not a joke, he says. So if someone doesn't have a nice voice, we're saying that he despised and he doesn't deserve to be someone who's living anymore. We understand maybe it's not good, it's not the best, but to say that he deserves a punishment, he deserves to not be alive because he is not learning the tunes when he learns the Chumash. Ella, rather, we could explain this like as a statement of Ramesharshia, the Amar Ramesharshia. Shnei Talmidei Chachamim Hayoshim Bir Achas. If you have two Torah scholars who live in the same city, it's imperative that they get along. If each one of them does not get along with the other one, and each one tries to always, as Ben Ish Chai says, they try to outdo or try to destroy or take down the other one. About them, the pasuk says, I have given them negative judgments and negative statutes which were not good. If there's machlokes, if there's arguments in the city, that could bring down the judgment of Hashem and bring down, unfortunately, very negative things. And one of the greatest examples, besides for the times of the Beis HaMikdash, right, when they were fighting in the city and the destruction happened, but much more contemporary, in the two of the greatest people, we mention both of them quite often, Rabbi Yonasan Eibshitz and the Chacham Tzvi. And the Yaibitz, Yaakov Emden, the son of the Chacham Tzvi, they both lived in the same city, Altoona in Germany, and there was tremendous debates between the two of them. And unfortunately, they might have met L'Shem Shemayim for the sake of heaven. The Maggid Mizrich wanted to get involved to make peace between them. And Baal Shem Tov told him, don't get involved. Stay far away from this. They are two great mountains, and don't put your head between two mountains. But some of their people, supporters who supported each one of them, they took it a little bit too far, the zealots. And so one of them made a bris for his child, for his son. And by the bris, he announced in front of Rabbi Yaakov Emden, in front of the Yaibitz, that something negative, may this child be blessed, and may everything negative go on the, onto your opponent. But unfortunately, what happened with this person when he grew up, he became this, not that person, that child. He grew up by his bris. That child who grew up, unfortunately, went very far off, right, very far out of the way, and he ended up writing a book which Nazis used and anti-Semites still today use, called the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. Right? He was a Yiddish apostate who wrote the book. At the end of his life, he did teshuvah. He felt terrible for what he did. And he said, but I see it's all a result from this original machlokes, this original debate between the two of them, which was taken out of context. So it's very important. You have two Torah scholars in a city. Everyone should definitely do their best to get along with each other. But this all ties in with the next statement. Amar Parnach, Amar Rabbi Yechanan. Instead of the Parnach, the name of Rabbi Yechanan. Kol ha'oiches sefer Torah arum, nikbar arum. If one touches a sefer Torah, the parchment directly without holding onto something else, with something interrupting something between them, either a handkerchief or something else, nikbar arum, he'll be buried without any clothes, because understandable, the sefer Torah parchment is holy, and the clothes of the Torah are the wrappings of the Torah, or the Chaim, the handles of the Chaim, and therefore one should always have something separating between the two of them. And he'll be buried without clothes. The Gemara says, Nikbar Adam Salka Daitach. Such a big punishment. If someone touches the Torah on the parchment, he should be buried without clothes. Rather, the Gemara says, answer number 2. It doesn't mean a physical type of clothes. You won't have tachrichim when he gets buried. Nikbar Adam b'loy mitzvahs. He'll lose all of his mitzvahs. He'll be buried, and he'll lose a merit of all of his mitzvahs. And Gemara asks, really? Can it enter your mind that if someone touched a Sefer Torah on the parchment directly, they should be buried without mitzvahs, which is, it's important. When one is touching, one is pointing the place in the Sefer Torah, you shouldn't point with your finger directly, because your finger might touch the parchment. And even a yad, even the hand, it shouldn't be touching the parchment. It should be above the parchment. But if the yad touches it, it's sort of acceptable. But even that shouldn't be done.
If a Torah was starting to fall, and the only way you could grab it is by the parchment before it hit the ground.
No, that's definitely right. That's an exception.
Okay.
Right, to the rule. But in general, one shouldn't touch it by the parchment.
When you say the yad, you mean the metal thing, don't mean the hand.
Right, the pointer. Look, we've had... for example, we've had earlier in this Mesechta, they said the sages were goyzer tuma. They decreed impurity if somebody touches a parchment directly, because they used to leave it unattended in the Aron Kodesh, and then the mice used to come and eat the parchments. But this is beyond that. This is more like a level of respect for a Sefer Torah. Close the tab, but I had some pictures before up. When about the some other pictures of the Rebbe getting an aliyah. Many times when the Rebbe will get an aliyah, the Rebbe would actually hold the Chaim with the handles with his talis, not directly, because there's an opinion of the Bach who says that even the Chaim, even the handles of the Sefer Torah are like the Torah itself. So he wouldn't hold those directly many times. Sometimes he would. So the Gemara gives a third answer. He will not lose all of his mitzvahs. Rather, he will just lose that one mitzvah. Let's say he was in the middle of reading the Torah and he touched it, he won't have that one mitzvah. Or if they were teaching Torah, he won't have that one mitzvah. Or doing Hagba, any one of those, he won't do that particular mitzvah. This is particularly more difficult, you could say, in the Sephardi Sefer Torah. Our Sefer Torah are laying flat, or on a small angle. So therefore, it's much harder to actually point it with your fingers, but the Sephardi Sefer Torah is right in front of your face, and many times, it's much easier to do it. So that's a time where to keep an eye out more than that.
In Beis Menachem once, the Gavai was doing Hagba.
Yeah.
I know, you know who he was.
Yeah.
And so he lifted the Sefer Torah, and he assumed there was a chair. And he went to sit down, and there was no chair there. So he fell. And he was holding, so he grabbed the Sefer Torah like this against his chest, and it didn't touch the ground. He fell, his back hit the ground, but
Wow.
the Sefer Torah didn't.
Wow. Baruch Hashem. Otherwise, it would have been an issue for everyone.
Yeah.
And the Rebbe explains this particular whole entire saying on a SIYUM Mesechta Megillah, and we'll mention part of it soon. Amar Rabbi Yanai Berei de Rabbi Yanai Sava Mishmei de Rabbi Yanai. Says Rabbi Yanai, son of Rabbi Yanai the elder, and the name of Rabbi Yanai the great. He must have been a Sephardi, because we have all the Yanai, son of Yanai, grandson of Yanai. So if they gave the name after their father, I'm assuming they were Sephardi of some sort. Rabbi Yanai the great, Mutav Tigal HaMitpachas V'Aligal HaSefer Torah. When one, I'll bring a little example of a Torah over here. This.
With the French fries.
To bring a little example of such a Torah. Everyone, please dig in, please. If one has a Sefer Torah and you're wrapping it in a cloth, so many times, right, you might think it's not a real Torah. So you could do this. You could just go like this, right? Roll the Torah around and put the cloth around. They have this in 770 from time to time. They take out very sort of old and very valuable Sefer Torah. Each one came from their own history. And so they're so delicate that they're surrounded, wrapped around in plastic, like very thick plastic. And they only take it out on some Torah. And sometimes you could see when they rewrap it afterwards. So you cannot turn the Torah around. Rather, Torah has to be stationary, and then you have to put the wrapping around that, like this. Because out of respect for the Torah is not an object which you can move. Rather, Torah is a holy object. Last part, and this is, I remember when I was 13 years old, I made a SIYUM at the request of Rebbe Eshbrin over here in Kesser Torah on Mesechta Megillah, and I still have my notes inside one of these art scrolls. Right? I remember that. This is Erev Pesach, so I use the same Gemara. It says, "Vaydaber Moshe Moed Hashem al Bnei Yisrael," and Moshe declared to the children of Israel the appointed seasons of Hashem. This is a review of something we learned here in the Gemara previously. Tan Rabbanon, our rabbis have taught us. Oh, sorry, skip the line. He gave us a mitzvah to read every single Torah portion in its right time, and as we had the whole entire last blot, was just telling us exactly how to, which Torah portion and which Haftarah you read at what point. This comes all the way back to Moshe Rabbeinu. As Moshe said, by Daber Moshe, and Moshe spoke as Moyadei Hashem. By every single Yom Tiv, let's say, came up to Sukkot, Moshe Rabbeinu read to the Jewish people the Torah reading, the Torah portion of Sukkot. When they came up to Shavuos, Moshe Rabbeinu taught them about Shavuos. And being as every Yom Tov, a holiday is to atone for the sin of the golden calf, and the way you atone is through learning Torah, and therefore you have to learn the Torah of the Kirbanos of the day. Bnei Yisrael, we say every day, Al Tikrei Banayich El Boinayich. Banayich means your sons. Boinayich is your builders. A Torah scholar is called Boinayich. They build the Torah with peace, through learning Torah. So Bnei Yisrael, Boinayich, you would teach them Torah by every single Yom Tov, their particular Yom. Tan Rabbanon, our rabbis have taught us, Moshe Tikin Lem Yisrael, Moshe taught the Jewish people, Shu Shoylin V'Darshin Minyan Shel Yom. You should always learn, make halachic inquiry, and expand upon the matter of the day. Hilchos Pesach, Pesach, you should learn about Pesach on Pesach, Atzeres, you should learn about Shavuos on Shavuos. Hilchos Achag, Bechag, you should learn about Sukkos on Sukkos. Hadron Lach B'nei Yair, V'Slika La Mesechta Megillah. We have now concluded Mesechta Megillah. Mazel Tov, everybody. Mazel Tov. Chaim. Please help yourselves. There's we have 10 people here. We can make a Kaddish. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, I think we'll grab 2 from the next room. Yeah.
Yeah, again.
Shliach. Hadach Mesechta Megillah, Hadach Chalan, Hadach Mesechta Megillah, Hadach Chalan. This is Shem Mesechta Megillah. This is Shem Mesechta Megillah. Hadach Mesechta Megillah, Hadach Chalan, Hadach Mesechta Megillah, Hadach Chalan. This is Shem Mesechta Megillah. Hadach Mesechta Megillah, Hadach Chalan, Hadach Mesechta Megillah, Hadach Chalan. This is Shem Mesechta Megillah. This is Shem Mesechta Megillah. Rasam Nachan Lim Yosei No Sheit. Hey, Rasam Mesechta Megillah. Say one little bar.
Also, fella, come back. He's a head guy.
He was number 9.
Number 10.
Number 8. We need two more.
8. 1.5.
Chanini bar Papa, Ramar Papa, Nachmar Papa, Chai bar Papa, Mar Papa, Rafmar Papa, Rachish Papa, Srikar Papa, Dabari, Papa, Dori Papa. Haram then lives to verses of Vino, Fiel, Lampa, Yisrael, Yachim, Kolon, Yachim, Zeno, says, Amklam, Bezerk, Shmecha, Len, this is Zachmai, Tachmin, Zach, Gilim, Hilim, Zam, Kechman, Levish, Eshak, Vidak, Vam, Kisani, Barakatad, and Vecha, Amin, Salavad, May Nachmal, Satan, Lane, Sino, Santa, Ken, Wish, Besmedrash, the Sam Tolkien, Mish, Kermas, Sean, Mashkim, the Veteran, Mashkim, the Vit, Varm, Tailon, on the name, Mail, Kam, Soccer, Mail, Kam, Soccer, on Rasman, Chaim, Elam, Babin, Rasman, Lever, Shachas, Shem, Rabatim, Tedim, Shachas, and Stam, the Yaxim, and Yetach Bach. Rasman, Shem, Satan, Simon, Mesechta Megillah, Ken, Sazin, the Haskell, Simon Lumen, Lamish, from Lasses, the Chaim, called Divers, Simon, Teresa, Ava, who's called the name of Meroim, Talmid, Chacham, Yam, Lizari, from Thomas, Tarim, P, and Pizari, Zari, Adolam, you was calling me, Zachatan, Beshach b'char tishmalach v'akzes zechal ki yibri mecho yisilu chosh nes Chaim erich minus v'shel chav nechavetz ano yizal mita no yivarach samay v'shalom. We have 10. Exactly. We'll say Kaddish. We'll say a little word from the Rebbe on this, and then we'll pass the mic around. Skadal v'skadal shmei Rabba Yom Adrochalusev Yom Chalusev Yasmak Perkani v'Gadam Mishri Chaim Chaim Chalveis Yisrael v'Galas Makarim V'Mru Amei Chavak Yisbar V'Sirama V'Snase V'Sadar V'Sala V'Salal Shmei T'Kacham V'Kov Leilun Kavar Chazav V'Shidasa V'Chazav Nachamaso V'Num Yom V'Mru Amei Al Yisrael V'Rabban Matamidei and Matamidei Samidei Mekon Yaskim Be'Raisa D'Basar Dem D'B'Chalas Elohein L'Chen Shlom Rabba Kinim B'Tes L'Racham and L'Chain Richin Zara recover come the phone the Mishnah Bimru Amei. Hey, Shlomo Rav Mishnah come down the Mata Yisrael Bimru Amei. As you show me bring up, yes, show me later Mata Yisrael Bimru Amei. Yeah.
Zimmen Tov,
Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Zimmen Tov, Zimmen Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Zimmen Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Zimmen Tov, Yeilanu. Yeilanu, Yeilanu, Lecha Yisrael. Yeilanu, Yeilanu, Lecha Yisrael. Yeilanu, Yeilanu, Lecha Yisrael.
The Rebbe already watched this morning for the book. It's still eat.
Okay. All right. We'll say a little vert.
That's right.
So she's not doing so.
Look, pizza. Look, where's pizza? Look away.
So she got the. Anyway,
Okay, we'll have. Shalom Aleichem. Yaakov, wow, all the way from Eretz Yisrael.
Yeah, he's
Yaakov,
he's
you
old.
came here to see him. This is
Yeah,
great.
Mashiach Higiu.
Good boy. You know, one bit simple to the next.
Yaakov, wow. Remember Yaakov coming to join us all the time. Let's make Yaakov full screen.
You know, those healthy muffins have nuts.
Have what?
Nuts.
No.
Is that I had one, right?
And,
So who was this? Who was this?
Yaakov, good to see you once again.
I'm not sure he
Holy
can
land of
hear you,
Eretz
but
Yisrael.
yeah, he can't hear. I guess he doesn't know how to. But it's okay. Shalom Yaakov.
Uh-huh.
What's Yaakov's last name?
Koretsky.
Yes.
There's
Place there, but yeah.
a place over here.
I recall, there's also half brown here, they're gluten free.
So let's have a little review about this last thing in the Gemara. It's very, very
Yeah, your pencils. Okay, right now.
this whole entire story in the Gemara is very interesting. To say that someone who's buried without, someone who touches the Sefer Torah will be buried without garments, without clothes. Now, there's many discussions that took place in all the Batei Medrash, you know, in all the yeshivas in Bavel. Many discussions. So Rav Ashi, when he put together the Talmud Bavli, he didn't put everything in. He chose what to put in. So every question here is important, and every assumption in the Gemara is unique. It's a very interesting assumption. If you touch a Sefer Torah barehanded, you'll be buried without clothes. Like, what type of assumption is that? The Gemara says no, it's not physical clothes that you'll be buried without. Rather, you lose all your mitzvahs. The Gemara says your mitzvahs, okay, you lose one mitzvah. Like, what's the Gemara thinking? Why is it so important? What's the validity? You will think you'd be buried without clothes for touching a Sefer Torah. It's like, someone was in jail for, if he stole from someone, he's in jail for a month. If he walked the wrong way, the wrong direction, in a store, which the aisle goes one way, will be put in jail for 20 years. So what's the svaras, the thoughts process behind every single one of these? The Gemara says you'll be buried without clothes, or he'll be buried without any mitzvahs, or without all of it, or without one mitzvah. So to understand this, first understand what is a Sefer Torah. Every single Jewish person is called a Sefer Torah. Even in halacha, it says if someone is present when another Jew passes away, they do kriya, they tear your garments, even if you're not related, because every Jew is like a Sefer Torah. And if Sefer Torah is destroyed in front of you, you have to tear your garments. So too, you tear your garments if you're well, yeah, halacha. I think people do it different nowadays. We don't.
You don't have to. Not an oval.
You're not an avel. We have to do kriya, tear your garments. It's like seeing the Beis Hamikdash destroyed, or a Jewish city was destroyed. Like people which soldiers went into Gaza now, and they saw like old Jewish cities which were destroyed. They tore kriya. This is halacha, right? You tore kriya when you see a Jewish city was destroyed. So what is the thought process between each one? So every Jew is very important. You might think like this: a Torah is not something you just carry around in your backpack. A Torah is something special, unique. You have to honor it. I don't honor the Torah; I touch it directly. So just like a person's a Sefer Torah, I didn't honor the clothes of the Torah. So therefore, a person will be buried without clothes. So it's sort of midah keneged midah, measure for measure. That's the first thought of the Gemara. Second thought of the Gemara says, but the Torah is not just a physical piece of parchment, right? It's not from the ink and the letters that we're honoring. We're honoring what's behind it. What's behind it? Hashem, right? Hashem is a Torah is not just a body. A Torah is a soul as well. The soul of a Torah. Right? And when we save a Sefer Torah, we're not just saving a physical parchment, we're saving the soul of a Torah. What's the soul of a Jew? The garments of the Jew is the mitzvahs. So therefore, if you touch a Torah directly, and this means in a disrespectful way, so he loses the mitzvahs, garments of his soul. That's the second thing of the answer. But the Gemara asks, but you should lose all your mitzvahs? Meaning, the connection of a Jew to Torah is not just that, and Torah is my garments of the soul, as Tanya says. Torah should be like Torah should be just the way I express myself. Torah is much deeper. Rabbi Weinstein, he was a student in University of Virginia when my father was a shliach in Richmond there for 1 year. And he used to learn with him a chavrusa. I think he had 15 or 20 chavrusas that year he would learn with, one-on-one. And they said, Baruch Hashem, several of them became Bali Tshuva. One of them was Rabbi Shmuel Weinstein. And one thing he didn't get was when he finished reading, right, he gave a kiss to the Sefer like this, finished learning. He says, I have a professor. My professor is a very smart guy. He's a very smart person. He wrote a book. Now, his book is, it's part of the course. We all have to learn it. But when we're done with the book, we close it, and then we put it on the floor. If I need to climb up the high shelf, I'll walk on top of it. What's the idea that you're kissing a book, a physical book? Right? That's something he didn't understand, which is what Torah is. You have a neshama. There's a third, deeper part of Torah, which Torah is not just the soul, something greater than us, how we connect to Hashem, but more than that, how Torah becomes our essence. Torah becomes who we are. When you read the Torah, right? When someone read the Torah and they touched it in the spot, the final answer is you lost that one mitzvah. When reading the Torah means that I'm going and from the outside where Torah was a separate thing, which is sort of my garment outside of me, now I'm becoming one with the Torah. I'm reading the Torah, I'm experiencing the Torah. there's different types of connection everyone could have to the Torah. And the highest, and these are, the Gemara is sort of going through all three of these type of connections with the Torah. You have the connection to the Torah, where Torah is just the actions, I sort of do the motions. I grew up this way, or I'm so used to doing this way, and I'm doing the motions, and that's the first answer of the Gemara. Why will he be buried without clothes? Because he touched the Torah without garments. He didn't respect the Torah. There's a deeper level of a Torah, a person connected to the Torah, saying, Torah is my connection to Hashem. Torah, my garments, I want my soul, my neshama to be beautiful. I'm going to do mitzvahs. I'm going to learn Torah. That's going to make me beautiful. But then comes the third part. And this connects to what we said, that the Rebbe sometimes would hold with the talis. Many people, when they get an aliyah, they're wearing a talis, they'll hold the Chaim with the talis. Right? When you have a Sefer Torah, right, you have the letters, and then you have the margins. Between here are margins, on top are margins. Is that a separate thing from a Torah? Or that's part of the Torah. Part of the Torah. Right? The Bach says even the Chaim is part of the Torah. When someone gets an aliyah and they're getting called to the Torah, they're not experiencing an outside experience, but it's becoming who they are. Torah is now their essential being. That's their essential connection to Hashem. And that is the third answer of the Torah, that our bond to Hashem through the Torah is not just an external bond of we're doing the motions. It's not even an emotional bond, how we are connecting to the Torah, but it's an essential bond, who we are. And it's part and parcel of who we are. And that's the deepest level of Torah. And as Tosfos ends over here, he says, when a person connects to Torah on such a level, he's zoiche, says, to length, to oisher, to kavod, to wealth, and to honor. May Hashem help us and all the Yidden in Eretz Yisrael and everywhere. We should be zoiche to, first of all, shliach, to gesund health, oisher, wealth, kavod, honor, time to enjoy it, and achas from our kids. The last thing is I read is Tosfos, yeah. But this whole thing is an explanation of the Rebbe, but it's based on a Tosfos on this page. Shikayach, and I'm going to just hand it around if anybody wants to. Thank you. What?
Well, the guy's name is Brockman. But what did you read about the?
I read about it. It's called Sorry Hameya. Yeah, I'm going to pass it around if anyone wants to say anything. Open mic. Okay, so this will conclude for today, and Mr. Hashem, next year will be next week Wednesday. I mean, tomorrow will be Rabbi Darren, and next week Wednesday will be tomorrow. Monday is Erev Tisha B'Av. Hatzvi is around this time, and then Tuesday is Tisha B'Av. Next one will be Wednesday and Thursday.